Hey everybody, it's Brent Frost. It's good to be with y'all again. Today I'm joined by Betsy Kramer. She is running for second vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party. She's from Fulton County. She's a longtime volunteer. I'm really happy to have her share with us why she's running. And I think the first most important question perhaps, Betsy, is your name is spelled Kramer with A and not with an E.
That's right. I am not related to the Kremers or to any Kramer other than my husband, Stephen, in Georgia. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, the other thing we were talking before we started recording is running for second vice chair, and you were saying you talked to some people. It's interesting. It's different than running for first vice chair,
Mhm.
or well, not first vice chair, more like chairman. That
Right.
you've got the chairman's race, then you've got really all the others. Because when you're running for chairman, people get really heated. They say, "Oh, this guy, if he gets elected, it'll be a disaster for the party." They say, "If this guy gets elected, he'll torch us to the ground." But when you're running for second vice chair, it's not nearly as much of a dogfight. People will tell you things like, "What did some lady tell you that she'd vote based on the speeches at the convention?" Is that it?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. Which is to me, it's like, okay, but I really think that you need to find out what this person has done and if that person is capable of doing and completing tasks or getting things accomplished. And that's something that I'm known for. I'm known for taking on projects and doing a great job and getting them done. So that's one of the reasons why, some people ask me to run and I put some thought into it. I'm, I'm 67 years old. Should I say that? But I'm retired.
People won't believe that.
I
It's okay to
am.
say, but people won't believe it. They'll think you're said, "No way, you can't be more than 55, 56."
Thank you. But yeah, I've
I'm not
been,
running for anything. And I
yeah,
said that I'm not running for anything.
right. But I'm married to Stephen Kramer. A lot of people might know who he is. I have two children, a son who's 26 and a daughter who's 24. And I've been in Georgia since the mid 80s. And I moved here from Massachusetts, hence my dropping and adding of R's and not my Southern accent. But I feel like I'm a Georgian. I love Georgia. I have no designs or desires to go back to Massachusetts. I go there for visits. And then I'm like, bye, see you later. Anyway,
A lot of people like we got a lot of people like that in Georgia. A lot of
yes.
northern expats, a lot of Texans. We have when someone and I've met many people who moved from Florida, and they tell me that they've moved. You live in Florida now; they live here. And my next statement is always, "Oh, you have grandchildren around here." And what do you know? It every single one of them say yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any grandchildren or anything like that. Um, I just, Steve and I love Georgia, and we have no plans right now to move out.
So
And
when you,
my
Mhm.
daughter lives in DC, and my son lives in Dunwoody. So,
Oh, cool. So you used to be in many positions of service at the local level, and you still are. You've been precinct officer, county officer. Tell us about some of the service you've done in those positions, and district as well. You've served in a bunch of positions.
yeah, I, I left the Democrat Party in 2009, and basically, when I first got involved with the Tea Party and the conservative movement, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take over. I'm going to take over. But then I realized I'm like, I need to learn what goes on. And so someone said to me, politics starts locally. So I got involved locally. I got involved with my county party, Fulton County, and I was precinct captain or whatever you want to call that person, trying to get people in my precinct to come out and vote and organize and pound the pavement and make phone calls. It's not the easiest job when you have apathetic people. I shouldn't say it that way, but they want to be involved, but they don't want to take the time to be involved. I've also been the House District Chair. Fulton County organizes by House District and not by Senate District. So I was House District after Major Thompson stepped down of blessed memory. And I did that. I was then asked to run for first vice chair of Fulton County, which I won. And then that was 2021. And that was the year with Trey Kelly and Susan Opasuth. So I at the state convention, they made me the acting chairwoman. And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was,
that was Georgia's. That was like the year of three governors in 1947 when Georgia had a disputed governor's election. We had three
right,
governors in the space of 1 year. That was Fulton's year of three governors, where you had or three chairmen. You were the acting chair while they were
right.
trying to figure out who the chair was, and it went back and forth, and it was a multi-month process.
But I stepped up and did the job. And in fact, many people were emailing me and saying, "Can we just elect you?" And I'm like, "No, sorry, you have to elect the one of the two candidates." But I did it wholeheartedly. I think I did a great job. I was communicative with everybody in Fulton County. I think we had an email list of 4,000 people, which went around the state. So people really liked what I was doing. But anyway, that came. I
You
did
have a lot
that.
of experience in volunteerism and being a behind the scenes worker, which is
Right,
kind of the difference between, I think one of the differences between the different candidates, one of the in no matter which race you're in, is how much do they emphasize their social media and just their commentating role versus their role of the nuts and bolts. If you look at, say, the race between Cross and McCoon, Cross is very active on social media. McCoon, not so much, other than in his capacity just to promote the party, say stuff,
right.
this and that. But the kind of commentariat side, some candidates really emphasize commentating, but you're not one of those. You tend to focus more on the volunteering behind the scenes role.
Right.
So from that standpoint, you would not want to be, it's like the old saying, a lady 100 years ago, etiquette book said a lady should only want to be in the newspaper, what is it, two or three times in her life? The announcement of her engagement, her wedding, and her funeral. You know, and
Yes.
so in your case, you would endeavor to only be in the AJC political section if they were announcing something like your election, but you would not want to be in there for something you'd said on social media. That's not
Yes.
your goal.
That's not my goal. My goal is to be supportive of the chairman and the executive committee. I for years I'm that person behind the scenes where you don't really necessarily see me. Yeah, it's nice to get have someone acknowledge me, but in general, it's like I'm the person behind the scenes. I find that I'm more effective that way and not getting involved with any political disputes. And I realized by stepping up and putting myself into running for second vice chair, I'm putting myself out there. But I'm willing to, I'm willing and able to deal with it. And of course, I have my husband who is like very supportive of me, and so
Well,
if
you
anybody
have an
starts,
advantage. You have an advantage for sure because there's quite a few candidates. I mean, not to, you shouldn't undersell yourself. After all,
no,
this convention is going to be full of people who just
right,
like you don't who avoid the limelight, don't like to draw attention to themselves, and just want to serve and to help. That room's going to be full of worker bees, and so
right,
yeah, you could definitely make a connection to them. There's going to be a ton of folks like that, and there's definitely a constituency. There's definitely a lane for a candidate who says, "I'm the low drama, high work ethic
right.
candidate."
That
There's
is
always a
me.
constituency
That
for that.
that's a great definition of who I am because I'm not into causing problems. I walk into this like go down to the state house because I've done a lot of lobbying through the years, and I have relationships with a lot. Democrats and Republicans and whoever else.
Well, you have the
And
advantage of living close by there, and you sounds like you've
well,
taken advantage of that.
I don't. I live 45 minutes away from the state house. I live at the northern end of Fulton
That's
County.
true, but yeah,
Excuse me.
and I live about an hour away. But
Right,
from the point of view of someone from Valdosta or
right,
Waycross or Dalton, we're
right,
close to the capital. Anything within an hour, hour and 15 minutes is close. And
right,
so you've taken advantage of that
right,
opportunity. And I think, and when you go to events at the Capitol, you'll see that the vast majority of people there live, within an hour, hour and a half of the Capitol. So it's good that we take advantage of that opportunity because I know plenty of people in the farther parts of the state who would like to, but they just can't. And
right.
so to whom much is given, much is required for sure. And of course, as the second vice chair, the initiative authority is almost entirely with the chairman. So, and most, that some people who are new who
I,
run for
right,
office, they go, yeah, it's going to be like a county party where we all kind of divide up responsibilities and
right.
it's kind of equal authority. No, it doesn't work that way. So, since you understand how the process works and how the chairman sets the agenda, what are some of the things you would like to do to help the county parties or just to help that you could do by yourself? Like, for example, when I was second vice chair, I said I'd build a website or a Facebook page for any county party that didn't have one
Right.
and wanted one. Uh, Basically, things I could do that didn't involve me having to get permission from anyone else, basically be a volunteer at large. What are some of the
Right.
things you'd like to do to help folks in addition to helping the chair with whatever he requests?
Well, would you say telling people what you did when you were the second vice chair? I've already, I remember when you were doing that. I thought when you first came in and you were like, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, that's fabulous. And so I want to continue on what you have done. And maybe, I know there are a few, we have 159 counties. I know there's some counties that are not organized or they have
15
enough
or
people
20,
to
yeah.
organize and pick up where you left off. I mean, you did a great job, but we can do that. I'm grassroots, or I consider myself grassroots. I want to reach out to them and keep them engaged, especially 2025, because it's a down year. It's
It's an
not,
election year. It's election year, like
it is
because the
election
PSC,
year,
the
right?
Public Service Commission election.
PSC, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
but
So that's critical. In fact, it's your Public Service Commission district, obviously not your fault, but
right,
it's your Public Service Commission district. The reason
right.
why this election is happening this year, the Democrats wanted us to
I
have
know.
those districts elected by district, which would have meant 4 safe Republican seats and 1 safe Democrat seat. It would have been the district you're in. To me, that's acceptable. A 4-1 safe Republican majority, but the legislator didn't want to give up even one seat, and so we went to court for 4 years, and then the
I
court
know.
said the election has to be this year in an off year. So, first time in Georgia history, we're going to have an off year statewide special
I
election,
know.
and
That
so
makes,
you're going to have to work extra hard to get people to volunteer this fall because we
yes.
have two statewide elections.
Well, and also we have municipal elections. And to me, even though they're nonpartisan, they're just as valuable a position because we don't want liberals, Democrats to take on positions. And in 2023, the last municipal election here in Johns Creek, that's where I live, we had a lot of people running. And at that time, I was, or was it 2021? 2021, sorry, I lost my dates. But there was a lot of people running. And the Democrats actually came out and ran as Democrats. And at that point, I said, hold on. I went and looked up everybody's voting record. And I got all the conservatives to come to my house and we worked together. And I said, there are four positions that you're all running for. Let's each one of you take one of the positions. So we're not running against each other because we got to beat the Democrats. And guess what? We ran them as conservatives and we had a good House district group of people and we got them all elected. this
It's
year
impressive.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a great story. I didn't know about that either. So you had the Democrats trying to organize to take over the Johns Creek City
Oh
Council,
yeah, and they're going to do it again
you
this
counter
year.
organized and you beat them.
Right,
That's really impressive. This
right,
year you're going to have a similar situation because turnout's going to be so high
right,
compared to what most municipal elections are.
right,
Turnout's usually 5 to 10%. Now it's going to be about 35 to 40% turnout, which means that there's going to be a ton of people who are going to be new mayors and new city councilmen just by virtue of the fact that the old electorate that keeps these people in office is going to be outnumbered. It's going to be swamped by new voters. There's going to be a lot of people at the Georgia Municipal Association next meeting after the election who will be saying, well, this is my last meeting, boys. The voters voted me out, during them.
right,
And it's like, well, what happened, Bob? It says, well, it's 10,000 new people came out and voted. I had no idea who they were.
right,
And they voted that welder who ran against me or that insurance agent. There's going to be a lot of turnover. And this is an opportunity for good. If you live in a city, a Republican city that has kind of a mayor who's not that great, you could replace him with a conservative candidate or a conservative city council candidate because the turnout's going to be huge now. And so there'll be tons of people who will vote, who will give a new guy a look who they wouldn't do it before because that 5% turnout is just basically the local chamber of commerce, the local Kiwanis club, and their, friends and family. That's
right.
what so
Well, it's going to still be hard to get people out because I people get voter fatigued. Like in
and Trump isn't
2020,
running.
right? In 2020 and 2021, there was one race after another election, and it was just I saw voter fatigue, and we just need to get people to understand this is super important. My city, unfortunately, or my house district, I should say, city itself, I think is leans more Republican, but my house district was redistricted for D6, meaning that Democrats point, by 6 points, and it's only gotten worse, I think. So we have a lot of work to do. We need to run our conservative candidates as conservatives and not as Republicans. And I get it, the party doesn't necessarily get involved, but I think it's really important
Yeah.
because the Democrat, I have a secret alias, and I jump on, I get invited to Democrat Zoom meetings, and I jump on and I don't show them who I am. And don't, now it's out. Now they're going to kick me out. But they want to take over. Their mission is to make Fulton County blue. And if they can, and we're fighting it up here on North Fulton to keep it sort of purpley color. But if they believe that if they can take over Fulton County and all the cities, that they can take over the entire state. So we have
Well,
a big job to do.
I've got 4 more years to see what we could salvage. And if by 2029, all of our folks in Fulton and in any of these Democrat dominated areas or areas that are getting more Democrat in some of these like Fulton, if you can't beat them by 2029, if you can't reverse the trend, then
Right.
you should move. Then you should sell your house and move to Hall or Cherokee. And here's why: a 45% Republican minority in a Democrat district helps them. Basically, you're contributing to the census block of their voters. They'll get to dominate you. But what would happen if 100,000 Republicans moved out of North Fulton in areas that were 40% Republican, 60% Democrat? What if those 40,000 Republicans moved, 100,000 say, moved, you would get 2 more Republican seats in wherever they move to,
Oh,
Cherokee,
yeah.
Hall, and you would take those away from the Democrats. So there is a point when the proverbial exodus not only makes sense on a personal level, but also on a political level. You can literally, if enough people do it, you can literally,
Right.
as what happened with Florida versus California, change the electoral votes of the nation. After the next census, it's possible for the Republicans to win without flipping those Midwestern and Rust Belt states. The Sun
Never
Belt,
thought about that.
Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, plus the more traditional Republican states like Florida, Texas, the rest, and Georgia, of course. If we can win those 4 states, we won't have to win Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Michigan. No, we'd like to, but we won't have to because of in fact, if the census had been done right last time, we would have been able to do it this time even without that. So So there is a benefit to sometimes moving, but what would you like to do as we wrap up? What would you like to do if there was one or two things you would really like to do, Betsy, to help, the local parties, district parties, and you had an opportunity? What would you like to do as just part of your own effort and initiative, since you like
Well,
to work behind the scenes?
I, would like to work with the counties on training their volunteers. As some people know, I was instrumental in 2020 and 2024 in getting over 600 volunteers, some of them from out of state, to come in and poll watch. It's really important. Also, I'd love to work on getting people to be a poll worker, because then you're there, unfortunately, 14 hours or so.
But
But
it's so important to be behind the
your eyes are
scenes.
there. I was a
Yep.
poll manager for over a decade, and
God bless you.
I actually retired because I ran for House District 50 to be a representative, and I had a runoff and I lost by 11 votes. And then I'm pretty. I travel around the city and I live at the gym, and people would walk up to me like, "I can't believe you lost. I thought you won. Oh, my husband and I didn't go vote in the runoff." I'm like, "Really?
It's
Oh,
you.
thank you, thank you."
Yeah, yeah. The Festivus celebration at the Kramer
Right,
household that year would have been huge. I got a lot of problems with you people.
right. So it was, an eye opener, and to be honest with you, the legislature keeps asking me to to try again. But unfortunately, we have a Democrat who is very, I think, House District is 50 is definitely Democrat. And I mean, I could try, but I think I putting my energy into the Georgia GOP to make it better. We need to work as a team and stop the infighting. I want to unite people, because we have to have one team, one mission, and one Georgia. And if we all come together, we can do marvelous things together and get things accomplished. Instead, we're probably the Democrats are sitting back going, ha 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 ha. Look at those crazy Republicans. We're our own worst enemies. We need to just put aside. And yes, some people have ideas, and we all need to listen to what they have to say. But I used to be a manager, and people used to say, we need to do this, A, B, and C. Okay, write it down, figure out how to do it, and come back and tell me how you're going to accomplish it. Oh, I can't do it. And there's people in the Republican Party that do the same thing. Here, I have an idea, but they won't, don't understand or don't want to say, well,
I used to tell
step
people when
up.
they had an idea to come with, when they had an idea, I said, okay, if you'll do half the work, I'll get someone to do the other half with you.
Right, right. And that's sad, because it's like, I have all these great ideas, but you don't want to implement them, and some of it is, you're telling them at a party, or they're being talked to by other people, and they're not really listening. Call them up, have a coffee with them, or go out for a margarita. I don't care. But you don't you have to figure out when the right time is to talk to people, not at a political function. So anyway, I want to do that. There's other things that I want to do, like, I mean, we've got to strengthen the grassroots to a point where they stay engaged all the time, and work and mentor these people so they can become the next leaders. Because like I said, I'm getting old, not that old, but and I run circles around a lot of people, but um, it,
Moses was 80 when God first
I know,
commissioned him for public
yeah,
service.
right, I know, but I don't. It's like glad to be 80. But anyway, I also, I'm very involved in the election integrity stuff. I've been involved, because I was a poll manager. I was Before the election integrity task force was created. I was me and a few other people were the integrity task force. And then the following year it became you know, a, a committee. So I'm still involved in that, and working behind the scenes. Again, I'm not always the front of the crowd person. I'm behind the scenes. I get calls, here, this is going on, blah, blah, do this, do that, or what do you think? So that's where I, I, I don't necessarily have to be on TV. I don't need to be the front person. I can be the back person for support and getting things done.
I think people appreciate that. I think we have our part at this convention. You're going to have a disproportionate number of worker bees. So I think there'll be plenty of people who will appreciate that for sure.
I
Where
hope
can
so.
people where can people find out more about your campaign? Do you have a website or
Well,
Facebook page or
I'm on Facebook, and I'm going to bring it
and
up.
on Signal too? What are some of the Signal chats you're active in? Because I'm sure many people watching this will be active in those too.
Okay, so let's see. I'm on the Georgia True Republicans. I'm on the Great Discussion. I also have my own signal group, which is the Israel discussion. It's called Israel Updates and Discussion. That was started right after October 7th, because we were actually Jenny Beth Martin, who I've known since 2009. She texted me and said, we got to create a separate group because we were just in the GTR, talking about Israel, Israel, Israel. And so we took it off to a separate group, and it's now a multinational group. I think I did,
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, you invited me to be in that as well.
right,
That's really, yeah, and I'm going to start asking candidates about their Signal chats if they care to share it, because
right,
really, even Facebook, the young people, the young people aren't on Facebook anymore, and but even now for those folks who are older, Facebook is less and less. Like people don't have Facebook group chats anymore.
right,
Signal, politically speaking in Georgia, Signal's where it's at. You've got these Signal chats that have a lot of discussion and back and forth, and
right,
uh, it's very significant how. And so I'm going to start asking candidates about that. Ask them, okay,
right,
what chats are you active in, so people can interact with you there,
right,
because in many cases that's going to be where they're going to be able to talk to you, because they're not going to. The odds are a lot of delegates won't be able to talk to you in person or even on the phone between now and the convention, but they might be able to interact with you on one of those chats. So
right, right. I'm also on the Great Discussion, which was started by someone that got kicked off of GTR. And I'm on some election chat group as well. I also have a Facebook page called Elect Betsy Kramer for second vice chairman, Georgia Republican Party. So I chose not to create a website. I just thought
good.
having most people
No,
are,
yeah, good call. Good call. Some people do it, some people don't, but either
right,
way, it's people are engaging with you on Signal and Facebook and such like that these days. So,
but
but
like I said, we have to be one team, one mission, and one Georgia, and then I think we can do some great things together and stop fighting and focus on what's ahead, because we got to get little John Ossoff fired from the Senate and put in whoever is our candidate for
indeed,
that, and then also get our constitutional officers elected this in 2026.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Betsy, for sitting
Welcome.
down and chatting with me. It's always good to talk with you, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the convention.
Yes, I'll look forward to seeing you too. Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.